Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3, Episode 6, Among Us Hide. Now, I want to start this off by saying I knew that something crazy was going to happen, and I'm like, there were only two real options. It was like, either we lost this character, which initially I was like, this episode started off, they were saving the doctor, and I was like, that sucks. I was like, it sucks that they didn't commit to, like, having this emotional impact. He totally survived, and it was like, okay. And then it kind of dawned on me a little bit at the beginning, and I didn't really think about it too much because there was a lot of stuff that happened in this episode. But when they did like the first little flashback thing where he's like, oh, if it weren't for Coulson sending an agent, or having an agent tell me, I never would have made it out of there. But he saved my life. I escaped through the bag. And then I was thinking like, okay, well that does kind of make sense. And they were going through the episode, and it was just in my head somewhere. Like, I never really was putting it together, but it was in my head when they kept talking about little things, like when Daisy mentioned the fact that Lash can turn into a normal human. It just popped into my head, like, what if he could turn? Like, it was literally like a split second. I remember that scene and being like, maybe he could turn. Maybe it was him. And then that kind of went away. All the other stuff happened with Coulson and the ATCU and him seeing their facilities and this and that. And then we get Von Strucker finally being captured at the end. And we get the full story, and I don't know how it even remotely makes sense, but either the doctor he's been Lash this entire time. He's always been, he already went through metamorphosis a long time ago, or somehow he went through metamorphosis recently, which makes a lot of sense considering all the craziness that happened, especially in between seasons. That's how so many metahumans came about, because the Terrigen crystals fell into the water. So it spread basically through fish, and just anyone who just eats fish, basically, poof, you can end up being a metahuman. Which fortunately, it's not doing the metahuman or kill you thing. It's not that potent. So that could have been how it happened, and it makes perfect sense. He definitely knows, so it's not like a crazy Jekyll and Hyde sort of thing, which even Jekyll and Hyde, he knew what was happening. So he knew what was going on, and it seemed like he changed at will. At first it was like, okay, he was in this intense situation, they killed off the agent, he was left, and then, it was like, I'm in danger, and he transformed without knowing. And then he, beat some people up, and then he changed back, and it's like, oh, let me pick up these glasses here, and, he's just looking real angry. And he didn't pick up glasses yet. I think he picked up the lighter. But he was looking super angry and stuff, and I'm like, he knew exactly what happened. And then it was full on evil at the end when he was talking with Daisy, and it's like, oh, did Lincoln mention exactly what's going on and, where he's at? And I don't know why, but for some reason, and I was recently at a panel at like an anime convention I went to, and they were talking about the Marvel Universe and stuff, and how the shows and the cinematic universe and the comics are different. But they mentioned Lash because, of course, he's in this season. And they talked about exactly why he's killing off metahumans and stuff. And his thing is basically that he's judging, which we did have in the show as well. He's judging who's worthy and who's not. And it didn't really dawn on me until this episode, where it's like, he easily had the chance to kill Daisy off. Like, he easily could have killed her. It could be the fact that he knew her before the whole metahuman, or the whole inhuman thing happened. Mixing my DC and Marvel stuff. But before the whole inhuman thing happened, maybe that's why he thinks that she's worthy, and that's why even when he attacked the truck, he didn't attack her officially, because he could have wiped out everyone in that truck. He blew the roof off, and the only person he killed was his partner, and that was probably because he's conscious enough to know, like, okay, this guy got captured. He's gonna, spill the beans. He's gonna tell them whatever he knows. I need to kill him. But he didn't attack Daisy. He didn't attack the other humans either. But pretty much everyone was knocked out anyway. But he still could have killed Daisy right there if he wanted to, because she was already knocked out. So maybe he thinks she's worthy because of everything that she went through from the past couple seasons, where he knew her. I'm pretty sure he was in the first season, like late in the first season or early in the second season. So he still knew her before all the insanity with the Inhumans. And it's like, okay, she went from this young, inexperienced girl to finding out that she's inhuman and becoming inhuman after the Terrigen crystal exploded when they were in the cavern, and going through all this stuff, meeting both her parents and all this insanity. So maybe he finds her worthy, and that's why she hasn't been attacked by Lash yet, because in his human form, I guess it's his human form, he knows, like, this is what she's gone through, and I already know, like, her history, and I know that she's worthy because she went from being this lonely little hacker girl to being a major part of this team and being one of, like, the front runners of S.H.I.E.L.D, really. So, it just kind of makes me wonder, like, why is he going after Lincoln? Like, what makes Lincoln so unworthy as an Inhuman? He's got pretty badass powers as far as I'm concerned, because he has my favorite powers, and I just like him as a character in general. So, I don't know what's going to happen. May now knows this secret. She knows that her ex-husband, is now Lash. Maybe that's why he left. Maybe it did happen in between seasons, and he found out, like, oh, I'm an Inhuman, and that's why he took off. He didn't want to turn into Lash and then, kill the woman that he cared about. He thought, maybe I won't ever be able to control this. Maybe technically he still can't, but he's just like, well, mentally maybe his sort of evil half is kind of blended with his everyday persona, and maybe that's just how it is at this point. But in the beginning, maybe it was kind of like a Hulk thing, where it was like he turns into Lash, and then it's just murder, and he's killing people, and then he turns back into himself, and it's like, man, I had no control over that, but I remember everything that happened. And over time, he just learned to accept it, because at this point, he was just like, I went evil, I killed those people in the grocery store, and I'm just gonna destroy this place because I need a good cover story. So I think if that is how it played out, he's definitely accepted things along the way. But that's definitely why he left May. He turned, whatever, he ate enough fish, poof, he got his unfortunate superpower. And that's why he left. He took off because he was worried that he'd end up killing her off. So I don't know how this is going to play out now. She's going to, of course, confront him because it's May. She doesn't exactly do the coy thing too often. So I'm not sure if she'll do it in front of everyone, but they're going to talk about it. That seems to be like the whole point of the next episode, which I'm really looking forward to. But this was a fun episode. I loved that reveal at the end. The stuff Hunter, this whole episode, I thought was funny because at first it was, of course, very serious, and like exactly what I thought was gonna happen did happen. Like, he had issues with May because, of course, he almost got the guy that she left killed. So of course she was mad at him. The rest of the team was kind of off put by him a little bit. He's like, can I help here? Can I help there? He was trying to help Fitz, and he was just, Fitz got annoyed with him and sent him off. He found out that Daisy and Mack were going on their mission. He's like, I'll drive. If you want me to. So he just, like, was jumping on any mission he could because he was kind of stuck at the base while Bobbi and May went to try and get Ward, and then they ended up just getting the Von Strucker, which ended up becoming a literal dead lead, by the end. So unfortunately, that won't lead them directly to Ward. At least it's, he dies in May's arms. They could end up finding the guy that killed him because that guy used to work for Hydra to begin with, and he worked for Von Strucker's father, but he was basically like, well, I can offer you this, and then, let's just say that Hydra owes me one a little bit. And so he just didn't give a crap, and he just killed the kid. He stabbed him once he was about to get busted because he needed that leverage at least, and the fact that he killed Von Strucker would be enough for Ward to still owe him one. So that could be where they go if they can, get some security footage and be like, this is who this guy is. These are the places he frequents, and then they get to him, and then they get to Ward. Somehow, like, even he didn't really have any contact, but that's kind of the only lead they have at this point. So, them having that cool mission, and then Hunter being stuck, and it's just like, I just want to help. That was really fun. Like, it was just funny. Max saying, like, we're just going to follow him, try not to, kill anybody or anything like that. So, interesting conversations. And then, of course, when he goes, because they're trying to figure out if, I can never remember the woman's name, to be totally honest, but the lead of the ATCU, once they're trying to figure out if her right-hand man was Lash, he goes out with the bandana, he just ices him, And it's like, they were freaking out, and it's like, what if he knew who you were? It's like, that's what the bandana was for. And it's like, look, all we have to do, get a little blood on him, put him back in his car, he'll think he passed out. Boom, we have our sample. And if he is Lash, we just put him back and we know where to find him. And it's like, oh, that's actually not the worst idea ever. But still, he went out there and just shot the guy. Then he punched him. And he's like, I might have some slight anger issues because they totally could have done that a simpler way. But he's like, boom, blood. So I love that. It was just funny watching him kind of deal with the decision that he made. And unfortunately, it wasn't as dramatic as it could have been. I like the fact that they kind of played around with it. Because if it was May, she probably would have just beat him up the whole episode. And it would have been like, man, that, he kind of deserves it. But it does suck to watch him get beat up. So fortunately, he was with Daisy and Mack. And they were just kind of just talking to him in general. So I enjoyed that. I thought that was pretty cool. When Bobbi goes on the mission and Hunter walks away, she's like, you're not going to say the thing? And he's like, you already know. I like that. I thought that was actually cool. It's like they've gotten to the point where I can't remember exactly what it was. I believe it was like, make sure you don't get killed or, come back alive or something along those lines. But I thought it was kind of cool that he reached that point where he was just like, you already know. And he just let her go ahead and kind of do the mission that she felt she needed to do. Because the three of them were all in the same boat, where it was like Hunter, May, and Bobbi. They all want Ward completely destroyed. And pretty much everyone does. Like, even Coulson was like, before Hunter left, he was like, make sure you kill him. Like, he flat out said, like, make sure you kill him. So everyone is at a very high point of rage with Ward and everything that he's done. So it was just cool to see, Hunter, after being kind of kicked off the mission, still feel the same way, and just, they have that bond where it's like, Bobbi, you already know how I feel, and he just goes off and kind of tries to attach himself to anything he can. But it was a fun episode. Action was definitely awesome. Whenever May's involved, always good action. I think it definitely goes May, and then it goes Bobbi. As far as like awesome action scenes, it's always the two of them. Definitely fun. And Bobbi had like the end scene with Ward's right hand man. I don't know if he died from that, if she like full on electrocuted him, or if she just like shocked him and he passed out. But that was really cool. Like they're fighting, then they fall into the pool. May's taking out like, I think she fought like two guys at one time, which is awesome. And then, Bobbi finally gets out of the water. She, hits, does like a little, flick of a wrist, jams those things right in the water, and he's done for. So I was like, that's really cool. I would love to see her combine those and do the bow staff, because I know that in the comic books, at least it's in some form, she has that as her weapon is like an actual bow staff, and I know that from Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. And that was pretty cool. A totally different costume as well. She had like her comic book costume in that, and they called her like her superhero name, which is Mockingbird, if I remember right. But in this, I do like the fact that she has them as like little sticks and stuff. But I would love to see it if maybe they got destroyed and they made her new weapons and they could combine into like a bow staff. That would be so cool. But they would also have to be in like really open areas for her to actually combine them. So that was something I just thought about this episode. I thought about it a little bit before, but I was really thinking about it in this episode. Like, this would be the perfect time for her. Like, she can't win when they're separated, and then she puts them together and she completely changes like the style of fighting that she has. That would have been really cool. But might just have to wait and see how that plays out. But great episode, very fun. The Fitzsimmons stuff did show up again in this episode, where Simmons is like, I know this might be difficult for you and you might not really want to get to know him, but he's a good guy. And Fitz is like, I know I'm going to get to know him. There's no doubt about it. And we see he's doing the research. After he had the little conversation with Hunter, he's doing the research on this guy. Like, is he a good guy? And at this point, Fitz might be judging whether or not he believes Will is worthy enough to be brought back to Earth. And basically so that that Will and Simmons can be together. But a great episode. Of course, I want to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. I think that this one, with the reveal being what it was, I definitely want to know what you guys think is going to happen to the team. Because this was a guy that, he's only had some minor moments. And I mentioned that when I thought he was dead. I was like, it's not the worst thing ever for me because he wasn't exactly a main character. but it does matter because he was important enough to be in several episodes, and obviously his death, especially the decision that Hunter made that caused his death at the time, was going to affect the entire team. And now it could end up being even worse now that he's actually living, because he's going to be the one that's the villain, and he's already inside the base. That may or may not come to just like a full out attack on him, and him versus the whole team by the end of the next episode when May gets word to Coulson. But I definitely want to know what you guys think about that. Like, where are they going to take that? How is it going to play out? Are you guys glad that he's the villain Lash? Were you expecting that he'd be Lash? Because I was like, he's either an Inhuman or he's dead. And he wasn't dead, and so it was in my head, like, maybe he's an Inhuman. They gave, like, the fake story where Coulson had an agent on him, and since Coulson was actually there to confirm it, it was like, okay, so I guess that's how he survived. But now we got the full reveal. He is our main villain, and it happened in between seasons. Like I said, that has to be why he actually left. But at this point, he's accepted his worst side. So I don't know how it's going to play out, but I do want to know your speculation. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.